Welcome everyone to another episode of Beyond the Hood with Tractor Zoom. I'm honored to be joined by Wayne Brozek today from WB Global Services. And I also want to give a special shout out to the McCullough Financial Group for letting us use their fantastic facilities here. This is actually one of the oldest businesses in Pella, Iowa. Might even be one of the oldest businesses in Iowa, the old Straw Town Inn. And so that might segue well into what we're going to talk about today, a lot of the service industry and providing great service. So
What a
Wayne,
beautiful place.
yeah, this is fantastic.
Yes, it is.
We might have to make this a permanent structure now in all of our podcasts.
Yeah, every time I come to Pella, I'm checking you out here.
Yep. Okay. But Wayne, anyways,
Yes.
thanks for joining me. And yeah, how was your trip in?
You know, it was great. It was a great travel day. The weather was perfect. Can't ask for better. Back home, it's supposed to be 64 degrees today.
Yes.
So I fly out this afternoon, so it should be perfect.
Right. Yeah. As a kid, I wanted a white Christmas. Now I'm totally fine with it being moderately warm.
Yes, I remember those days. You know, when I was younger, I was like, man, I can't wait for it to snow, right? And go goose hunting when it's snowing. And now I'm like, oh, heck no.
Yeah. Yep. One and done. I'm good.
Yeah. It gets below 40, and I'm like, I'm out.
Yep. Good. Well, again, really appreciate you joining us here. And
Thank you.
I know that I've seen you on a couple other podcasts and I've seen you speak at different events, and you've got a great storied past. I think a lot of people have heard about it. But one of the things that really struck me is, I mean, you got into this early, delivering parts into high school. And so you've got a wide experience kind of in this aftermarket part space. But could you pick out one pivotal moment or maybe a lesson from your whole experience that just shaped the way that you think about, dealership operations today?
Yeah. So, Andy, I would think in my past I've had really good mentors, right? I was really blessed early on. When I went to Colorado to go to school, I met some really amazing individuals that helped form my future, and having some really good mentors. I would say probably the one was being pushed on parts inventory management at an early age, right? I became a parts manager when I was 23 years old. And so that was really tough. Number one, just managing people that are older than myself, right? And so having the disciplines pushed on me at an early age kind of was, I think that forged my path, right? Just being taught that processes are what's going to drive your success, right? You have to stick to some really religious processes.
That's great to learn at an early age.
Yes. Yeah. That really formed my path, I think, was having the two really good mentors.
So on that, then, as we're talking about process, as it deals with the aftermarket parts side specifically, was there a moment when the idea of data came into play? When data or the process management of this needs to be managed different than maybe it has in the past?
Yes.
When that became very apparent to you?
Yes. So I'm old, right? I've been around the business quite a while, but when I first got in the business and delivering parts, our parts inventory pad sat at the end of the counter, and it was just a printout, right? Dot matrix printout, Yeah. You didn't have, we had card files where you went and found the card and you pulled it and it told you how many to stock.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It was not, yeah. So data has, I feel like I've grown with the data, right? Like from those days when you had card files and you said, well, that's how many we stock, and you had to do the math on the card and say, well, this is how many we're down to. And if you're running low and you look at the card and it says, well, we would normally stock 10 and I'm pulling the last 2, then we had to put that at the very front so the parts manager would know to reorder that. Yeah, tough ways to grow your inventory and manage your inventory. And so data has really helped. Like now, if I was a parts manager again today, I'd be so stoked because I could use AI and predictive analysis to help me stock my inventory, right? When I was a parts manager, we used data to, hey, you sold it 3 times, but it was reactive. You had to have the sale in order to tell you when to stock. With AI, I could look at it and say, how many units are in my area? How many hours do they have on them? What are you seeing failing? And we could stock those parts proactively versus being reactive.
Right.
So, yeah, data's come a long ways to help a parts manager manage their inventories.
Good. Okay, so another question still on the parts, but even service manager. If you could tell every new parts or service manager one thing about getting the aftermarket job right,
Yes.
what would it be? What would their lesson be?
I think I would have to tell them the same thing my mentors told me. Get some processes and follow those processes religiously, right? I've seen more parts departments inventories being screwed up because you don't follow your daily processes, right? Cycle counting. Nobody likes to do a cycle count, right?
Yes.
Nobody does. I mean, it's a grind.
Yeah.
I used to make my people do it every single morning. That was the first thing. You had your clipboard, and they knew what my expectations were. We called it the 3 C's. You have 3 C's in service: cause, concern, and correction. We had 3 C's in our parts room: count, close, and clean, right? So it wasn't just doing a cycle count. My expectations were you'd have your cart, you'd have your glass cleaner, you have your rags, you have your tape. And my expectations were you'd count that bin, you'd clean it, you'd close any open packages. But you did that every single day. And some managers I see, they get pushback, right? They say, I'm too busy, my guys are too busy, my gals are too busy, we got this going on, you don't understand. No, I do understand. Right. I do understand. I've lived it. But the one thing I would tell any new parts or service managers, get some good processes, proven processes, and stick to them. Stick to them.
That is fantastic, because yesterday I was on a webinar, and that same topic came up, not about parts and service though, but just about managing the dealership on the sales side of things. But they said the exact same thing.
Really?
Have a process,
Yes.
stick to it. And the comment that came out of it was, it's hard to be a learning organization if you don't. Because if you're constantly tweaking things, or if you kind of let some things slide some of the times, and you have a suboptimal outcome, then how do you know why you had that suboptimal outcome?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Good.
Exactly right.
Good. Well, we have the world's problem solved.
Yeah,
It's like,
we're moving on.
but I still have some questions for you.
Okay.
So you're stuck with me.
Yeah.
So this question has come up probably in the last 6 months, as we have more discussions with dealers about absorption, and a lot of them are saying, I am just not structured to be able to get 100% absorption. Obviously, that's kind of a great goal to have. Obviously, you can float your dealership. Well, here, the best I can do is 80%. When you hear that, what's usually underneath it, and what's their barrier?
Well, that's a really good question. That's a loaded question, Andy. But typically what I find is when dealers are hovering in the high 70s, low 80s, what I typically find is their management staff doesn't truly understand absorption. They don't understand. Absorption is a really simple calculation, right? Gross margin and expenses. Those are the only 2 things that can impact absorption. But typically what I find is their mid-level managers don't really understand absorption, right? Like, I work with a lot of dealership groups, and the owners understand absorption. The CFO understands absorption. Maybe even the operations managers understand absorption, but the service managers and the parts managers don't really have a good idea. Yes, I understand absorption. Everybody's shooting for 100%, but they don't know how to manipulate the number to get it to grow, right? And that's typically what I find. It's just we don't have a good broad scope education on absorption and what impacts absorption. That's typically what I find.
So then diving deeper into this one.
Sure.
Would your approach be to provide education to those parts managers, service managers? Would it be to go a step further and teach them, like, here are the triggers that you can pull? Like, what step would you take with them?
No. So when we work with our Edge program with dealers and we're embedded in their organization, we're almost like a fractional part of their leadership team.
Yep.
When I go in and I work with dealers, or we send people in to work with dealers, we say, okay, let's look at your P&L and let's start scrutinizing every expense. Right, and I'm not the type that believes I can save myself to profitability, but we need to scrutinize all your expenses, and then we really need to look at the revenue side. That's going to increase our gross margin, right?
Right.
But I'd be dogged on my expenses, and I was. When I was a manager, I was like, because I wanted above 100% absorption, and the only way to get there is you've got to monitor every expense line, ensure those expenses are legitimate, and you can't get that component or supply anywhere else any cheaper, any less expensive, and then get on the revenue side of your P&L and say, okay, what's my technician productivity looking like? Is my labor rate correct? Right? Is my cost of sale, my gross margin on just labor accurate?
Oh, that's good to hear, because I do hear a lot on the parts and service, obviously your margin side of things,
Yes.
but looking at the denominator can make a
Yes.
huge difference too. If you can start to whittle that down,
Right.
it makes a large
you know,
difference.
I'm sure you've heard it. In good times, we get bad habits, right?
Right.
And now that we've been through some really tough and challenging times, people are digging into their expenses more and more. But I'm hoping that since we've had such a tight market, that dealers are getting really good habits ingrained, right? Mm-hmm. I've lived it. I've lived when you could pick up the phone and sell anything. Sales guys weren't working and gals weren't working real hard. Inventory's flying off the lot. That caused a lot of really poor habits. And now I'm really hoping that since the market has been tight, that we're forming really rock solid habits that'll carry us forward on the next upswing.
Good. So what is one change a dealership can make this week? So if you walk in, you meet them right away, what's one change that they could make immediately to improve absorption or at least their aftermarket profitability?
You asked some really tough questions. So if I was working with a brand new dealership this week and you and I are in the operations and you said, I would say, let's get the whole team together and let's discuss where we're at for absorption today. Let's calculate it. Let's show everybody on a flip chart or whatever we need, how you impact it as a parts manager, how I would impact it as a service manager, and where we're sitting today and where we want to go tomorrow, right? And absorption is one of those numbers that's kind of like parts turn. You don't just flip a couple levers and you went from a 1.8 turn to 2.5 or 3, right? It takes a while to turn that ship. It's a big ship. It's not a jet ski, right? But I would say let's start this week with our financials. Let's lay them all out here. Let's say we're at 82%, and our goal is going to be in 2 quarters, we're going to go from 82 to 84%.
Okay.
And that's what I would do in week 1.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I've always been a firm believer in you can't manage what you don't measure.
Amen.
You've got to know where point A is before you can start to go out to get point B.
Yes, sir. Very true.
Good. I'm going to have you start coaching my youth basketball team.
I was going to tell you, I coached youth soccer one time. Huge mistake. I'm from Nebraska. Didn't play soccer growing up, and they needed a soccer coach. Andy, I'm not the right guy to coach little kids.
Oh, I'm questioning my ability now too. Okay, specifically talking about your consulting work.
Yes.
Now, what separates dealerships that consistently hit absorption targets from those that just struggle to move the needle?
Yeah. Again, I think it all boils down to, and you're probably getting tired of me saying this, but processes. Monitoring processes, holding your management team accountable, setting good objectives for them, and then tracking that. Like you mentioned, you can't manage what you don't measure. And I think sometimes, and I see it even today, some dealership groups that I work with are really scared to share the financial data.
Oh, right.
Right? They think, well, if you see the financial data, then they're going to realize how much money I'm making, and then they're all going to want raises. Not necessarily, right? If you want to improve performance, we need to be transparent. You don't maybe need to show them everything on your financial. I'm not saying that, but you do need to show them what they're in charge of.
Yes.
And yeah, I would think being transparent with your financials and pushing them forward.
Yeah, we've seen that again, not necessarily just on the aftermarket and the parts and service side, but we see it on the sales side too. Let people see their performance in a dashboard, in a report, like be transparent with that data and real time as much as you can be.
Amen.
And they tend to, if they have a scoreboard, they tend to try to improve.
Right? Yeah. Yes, that's exactly right.
Good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the processes, absorption, and kind of some of the systems that people use for that. So when a dealer has these strong people and they have strong processes in place, but they're still struggling with absorption, at least not as high as they want it to be, how might you then say, here's a workflow system, whether it's quoting, communication, metrics, to help close the gap? Because people might say, yes, I believe in a process,
Right.
but I'm not process orientated, or it's not working for us yet. How would you then kind of take them the next step and help them develop a process?
Yeah. So if they say we understand processes, but I'm not process driven, then you mentioned dashboards, and those are huge, right? Like I'm working with the dealer group right now, and part of our new dashboard for 2026 is monitoring. The corporate parts manager is going to monitor each branch's cycle counts and report them out every single week, right? Because we were struggling to get cycle counts completed. And all of a sudden you'd see a spike where they counted 800 lines in 5 days. Well, you should be just counting a couple hundred lines in that week, not 800. And then it goes 3 weeks and they didn't count anything. So I would use, again, dashboards are a great tool to help monitor and improve performance. And absorption could be one of them. You just track your absorption number right on your dashboard and you watch it move, you know. I like the RPM gauge where you set your target here and just let it go.
It's crazy on how addictive that is when you see it start to get up there a little closer to green.
You want to keep going, right?
You do.
And it motivates people. And a lot of times if they don't have that, something that visual, it's hard to get it off of just a flat piece of paper, right? It means a little different if you can see it in a dashboard.
Yes, good. So parts and service sometimes work closely together.
Yes.
Not always with sales, though.
No, that's our unified enemy.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah. So, but it, to really sell the entire dealership, and that's the panacea that a lot of dealers are after, and they know the value of it, right?
Yes.
How do you bridge that gap? So how do you bring people together that, whether it's technology or other uses of tools, to reduce that friction and bring sales, parts, and service closer together?
Yeah, well, that's been a big challenge, and it's still a challenge in a lot of dealerships that we work with. But technology can definitely do that, and some good CRMs will do that, right? Because if we understand sales' struggles, and we understand from an aftermarket perspective, we understand how tough it is in the sales market, then hopefully we get a better idea of, hey, you need to push that PDI faster. You need to get this reconditioning done quicker to get it out, right? So utilizing a CRM, I think, has been instrumental for us because we could see the entire dealership. It wasn't just like our dashboarding and our CRM let us see parts sales from a service perspective. It let the parts department see service sales and their gross margin and their struggles. And then when we started talking absorption, it's what's your contribution margin from parts side? What's mine, right? Yours may be 45%, mine may be 55%. But as a dashboard, when we could see those together, it made us feel more cohesive. And then the sales side, we could say, hey, where's their sales targets? And we really see them right now struggling to hit their sales targets.
Right.
And you can feel some sympathy towards those departments and start communicating easier, I think.
Good. So I'm going to shift topics here a little bit and
Okay.
ask you a few questions about WB Global and what you guys have done.
Yeah.
So you guys have grown significantly in the last couple of years. Recently, you expanded by partnering with our good friend Russ to support dealerships across the entire nation, Eastern
Yes.
U.S. especially. What does that expansion allow you to do that you couldn't before?
That's a great question. So what it allows is Russ can focus on southern states, the eastern half of the U.S., and it really helps bring a different perspective to WB Global, right? Because it's all been based on my experience. And, I started in the parts room and then became an owner. So I've sat in every chair in between. But Russ's perspective is from the OEM side, right? He's led large companies. And so we always kid from the boardroom to the break room. And it really does bring a whole nother level of experience and expertise to WB Global Services that we didn't have before.
Good.
So
I
yeah,
can
it's
imagine.
really been great.
Good. So then with WB Global in mind and all the dealers that you guys are servicing or want to partner with in the future, what trends or challenges do you expect to define the aftermarket performance in the future, especially in the next maybe 3 years?
Yeah. So right now, and we've talked about it quite a bit, is absorption, right? Everybody's tracking absorption. And I think, and I mentioned it just briefly, but AI inside the parts and service department. So telematics, AI, I think that's going to be the future. right? Instead of being the old knee-jerk reactive, how do I stock based on what I sold?
Right.
I think we're going to start saying, hey, how do I get this on my shelf before Andy even knows he's going to need it? And how do I get that to my service department to get out to Andy's farm before Andy realizes he's going to need it? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's just super exciting. I mean, I'm telling you, if I was 20, 30 years younger, I'd be really stoked up as a parts or service manager to incorporate AI technology and telematics from our OEMs into our daily business. I think that's just, it's so exciting that you guys have those tools. The younger generation has those tools. Because I can't tell you how many times I got chewed out for not having a part.
Oh, right. Oh, man.
Right.
Especially if a farmer needs it now.
Yes. Yes. And now to be able to say, hey, Andy, you need to replace this, and you're going, I don't have an issue, but you're gonna have an issue. Do you want to have the downtime, or you want me to fix it now while you have the time?
Right.
Right. And then if it fails, you can't. It's harder for you to come chew me out. Right.
Exactly.
And so I think that's going to be the trend, Andy, is just getting more predictive repairs and predictive stocking done ahead of time versus the old traditional way we've always done it in the past.
Okay. So I've got a question.
Yeah.
Didn't plan this one out, so I'm going to just throw this at you. Yesterday gave a webinar talking about a lot of the equipment sales are down, especially new equipment sales are down. Even used is down a little bit. People are holding on to it for a little bit longer here as we end up in 2025. What is your take on what that's going to do to parts and service? Because you do have less machines entering the market, but what is in the market is being used for longer on the farm.
Yes. And I, you used to hear all the time, you know what, new sales are down. They're keeping their equipment another season or maybe two, so parts and service sales will go up automatically. In theory, that sounds like it should make sense.
Right.
But in a down market, when on-farm net income is down as well, if the producer doesn't have the wallet to share, I don't care if they used it the next season or not, they're not going to open their wallet. They don't have anything, right?
Right.
But I think now, I feel like 2026, with some of the things that we've seen come out of the leadership in Washington, I think you're going to see on-farm income come up. And I truly feel like those repairs that were held off, I think our parts and service departments better get jacked up and get ready.
Right.
Because I think the wave's coming, and I think it's going to hit us, and it's going to hit us hard. And I don't know if our departments are ready for that. I think a lot of people have been downsizing and really restricting growth. And 2026, 2027, you can see a wave come. And I think you better be prepared for it, because especially in your aftermarket, if you don't have those parts, if you don't have that labor technician ready, and you miss that wave, you're gonna miss out on a lot of revenue, I feel.
Right. I agree with you. We're having a lot of conversations with those dealerships that do have processes in place, and they're expecting the same thing. I'm starting to see the same thing within the data of 26 is likely the year that things swing back up, but you've got to have that system in place, those processes in place to be able to act on that.
That's right. Yeah, because you miss that, you're going to miss out on a lot of revenue, a lot of profitability that you've been struggling with.
Right.
You've lost it the last 24 months. You don't want to miss it going forward.
Yes. Okay. So a hypothetical question here. If you've got one day to work with the dealership, stopping in 8 hours, what do you focus on first?
So I think the very first thing I do, part of our edge is we do an assessment. If I only had 8 hours to work with you, the very first thing I'd want to do is let's look real quick at your balance sheet, and then let's look at your P&L, and then let's look at your training schedule. Those would be, if I only had 8 hours and I was with the leadership group, that's what I'd want to look at. Your balance sheet, your P&L, and your training schedules. I'd want to see that, and based on your P&L, I'd see what your gross margin is, so I'd know how you're paying your people based on. But I'd want to look at those things. And the training schedule maybe sounds self-serving because what I'm doing today, but it's really not. It's because if you're not training your people, you're not preparing them for the future, your growth's going to be really stagnant. You may not be the cutting edge dealership that you really think you are. Right. And that gives me a really good insight to the dealer group that I'm working with. When I look at your balance sheet, your P&L, and your training schedule, I know where your head is and where your focus is at.
That's good. I love that aspect because you can't hide from the financials.
Right.
So that's going to be there. But also your training schedule is it just epitomizes the culture and the philosophy of your business.
Exactly.
Oh.
So if you limited me to 8 hours, that's where I would start.
All right. I'd pay you. I'd bring you in. Okay? Good. So, Wayne, the
Yes,
last
sir.
question I have
Yes.
is around, so let's say an operating system, a business system like Anvil.
Yes.
So if a program, if a dealership is implementing Anvil, so CRM tied with inventory, how would you say we're going to take this system and help increase our absorption? How would you go in and coach a dealership that's new to this and say, here's what we want you to use the CRM for in order to improve your absorption?
Gosh, Andy, you asked some really tough questions.
I know.
But you know what? That CRM tool, I would take it if we were focusing on absorption, that was our target. We wanted to grow absorption. I would take a tool like Anvil and I'd say, let's look at our customers that haven't purchased from us. Well, maybe I'd back up. I'd say, who's purchased a whole goods piece from us? Mm-hmm. And then let's look at their parts and service revenue based on that transaction or those transactions. And if they're buying whole goods, but they're buying parts, but they're not buying service, then I'd challenge my service team to find out why, right? Mm-hmm. Or if they're buying parts and service, but they're not buying our whole goods, maybe they're procuring their stuff at auction or wherever,
right.
Then I'd challenge my whole goods department to say, hey, why don't you contact this customer and let's grow some whole goods business? But that's how I would use it. I would start there. I would say, hey, look, let's break it out by customer and where they're spending their money inside our dealership. And if they're not spending in one department or the other, then I'd want to figure that out. That'd probably be where I'd start.
That's good. That's good. And it's easy to do. I know our
Very.
customer success team will builds reports on that all the time and can spin those up.
Yes.
But that's very actionable. You essentially find the gaps.
Yes.
Where's there opportunity to improve, whether it is parts, service, or whole goods, and then you attack it.
Yeah, and then I'd probably boil that down again that after I'd fixed all those or addressed those issues, then I'd start looking at seeing which customers only spend warranty dollars with us and why. If you're only coming in for broke repairs under warranty, where are you getting the rest of your work done? Where are you buying your maintenance parts?
Fantastic.
And I'd keep just digging down.
Good deal. Well, Wayne, I appreciate you joining us here on Beyond the Hood. This is fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I'm so glad to be here.
Good. Well, next time you're down in Pella,
We're
in
stopping
Iowa,
here.
Yes, we are. Good. Well, again, appreciate you being on here.
You bet,
and thank
Andy.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Beyond the Hood with Tractor Zoom. Until next time, follow us on all of our social channels, and you can check us out on TractorZoomPro.com. Until next time.